Hi, I'm Bob Burridge, and this is how I set up my studio. You know, I like to be organized and have everything in this place, so when it's time for me to be creative, I put all my time and energy in the creative side and not have to go rummaging around looking for certain colors and things like that. So it's what I like to do before I even begin a studio painting. By the way, wherever you paint, call it your studio. I know a little old lady that sits by the edge of her bed in an assistant living home, and she calls that part of her bed her studio. If you paint in your garage, say, I'm going to go park my car in my studio. Okay? So it sends a strong message to yourself and also to your and to the family members too. So the studio, wherever you paint, call it your studio. Kitchen table, my studio. First thing I do is I cover the table. I like to paint flat. I paint on a table. I don't paint on an easel necessarily. So I cover the table with a sheet of plastic. Now the plastic I use is polyethylene. It's really inexpensive. You get it at every hardware store. And I cover the table, I stretch it, I tape it all down, and so it's nice and tight, as you can see right here. So there's plastic on the table. Now I use polyethylene, and it's 4 mil polyethylene. Remember, 4 mil polyethylene. Because it's real thick. It's not like dry cleaner bags or something like that. And what I like about this polyethylene, this plastic drop cloth, is that paint won't stick to it. And that's the key, because this becomes my palette. I don't have one of those white trays or anything like that. This becomes my tray and my palette. And it keeps me looser and more free. So today I'm going to be, say, painting on paper. This is watercolor paper. And I always start off every morning by doing these small warm-ups, as small as this. As simple as that. I don't go in and face the big painting every day first thing in the morning. So I like to warm up. My stretching exercises, like having fun. So everything has to be ready and in its place. Okay? First thing I do is I make sure I have a big bucket of water. Don't get these little tiny little coffee cups of water. That'll tighten you up quicker than anything. So no cups of water. Have big buckets of water. I'm right-handed, so put everything on the right-handed. If you're left-handed, put everything on the left-hand side. Real simple to do. It's amazing how some of you artists will sabotage yourself and avoid doing painting. You say, well, okay, here I go to paint. I'm going to reach way over here and paint. No, folks. Keep your eye here on the prize. So big buckets of water, big wide-mouth buckets of water. That way your eye doesn't have to be roaming all over the place looking for the water. So when I'm painting it, my eye stays right here on the prize. Keep your eye on the prize. And big buckets of water, just like that. I have a few brushes out. Do not get an array of all your thousands of brushes that you have in your buckets. I know you have thousands of brushes. How many brushes do you really paint with? Oh, maybe 2 or 3. So I only get out 2 or 3 brushes. Keep them on the table. I only put on the table what's going to serve me for this particular painting. I've already written down my goals. I know my intentions. I know what I'm about to paint. Or at least I think I do anyway, and I'm all excited about it. So I prepare the table. A couple of things besides putting plastic on the table, I have my paints. I've already predetermined the colors I'm going to use. I do not open up all the jar lids. You're already out of control, especially those of you who like to squeeze out all the tubes of paint, put them all on your table. I'm ready to paint. You're out of control at this point. And I know you won't use all those colors. So I only get out the predetermined, pre-selected colors at the beginning. And I put that on the table. I also have my brushes here ready to go. Now I'm going to put gesso. Gesso is a primer. And I'm going to put that primer gesso, acrylic primer, right on my watercolor paper for several reasons. First of all, when you buy a canvas in an art store, it already has the primer, acrylic primer on it. That's great. And that means now when you go to put the acrylic paint on it or the oil paint on it, you have longer time to kind of move the paint around. It doesn't get absorbed into the cloth or the paper. So I like to use acrylic gesso. It's a primer, the same stuff that comes on your canvases when you buy it at the art store. So mine is really, really thick. I love the real thick gesso. And I literally trowel it on. After it has dried, I divide the paper into 10 little sections. Well, I'll put it this way, 10 little sections. There you go. And you can see it's 6 inches, 6.5 by 9.5. Okay? So out of this one full sheet of watercolor paper, I can get 10 little paintings out of it. So that, you know, $10 sheet of watercolor paper isn't that expensive when you can sell 10 little paintings out of that sheet. So I break it up this way. Oh, I have a little bit left over too. But mostly it's 9.5 by 6.5. Okay, dividing up this way. Okay. Before I even do that, though, I have to put the gesso on. This is how I do it. I literally take a piece of cardboard, a piece of foam board, put it right down in the middle, just like that, and I squeegee it all over. You can use a wide brush or a rubber squeegee. I use these pieces of foam board, 1/4-inch foam board. That way I get to throw it away at the end of the day. And I literally trowel it on, just like this. I'm canceling out all the wonderful properties of the watercolor paper. And now I have lines in it. I have my DNA all over it. I've let the paper know that I'm the boss now. There we go. Done. Done. Oh, it has little ridges in there and marks, and I like that personally. I like lots of texture. So this is ready to be used for the next one. So I'll gesso all my paper usually the day before, the night before. And it's ready to go. Now after that has dried, and the reason I do that, after this has dried, I can paint, and when I paint on it, I have longer play time. So the paint isn't absorbed right into the paper, just like a blotter. That's what a watercolor paper does. So I've canceled out all those beautiful qualities of watercolor paper, and now I have ownership. The paper now knows that I'm the boss. I'm not afraid of this paper. I'm not worried about all that expensive cost that goes into watercolor paper. To me, it's just the beginning of a great painting. And the preparation work is important. Now it's ready to go. It dries. I'll divide it all up or tear it all up. And let me show you an example of how to tear paper. And the paper tearing technique is important for those of us who like to keep that deckled edge. You know, that little ragged edge that we like so much? The problem with that is that when we want to make a paper smaller, we cut it. So now we have 3 deckled edges and 1 straight edge. Here's how you maintain that deckled edge. This little demonstration is to show you how to tear paper to maintain that deckled edge. You don't need fancy equipment. You don't have to wet it down, and I've seen people go through all types of gyrations. So I've just now gessoed the paper. It has dried. Now the thing about gesso is I don't know which side has been gessoed, especially when I tear it all up. And so before I even tear up the paper, I make a little note to myself. Now that tells me that's the back of the paper, no matter what size I make it. Little studio trick right there. So this is a full sheet. This side has been gessoed. Here's how you tear paper. It's pretty simple. It's so easy, but we all forget how to do it. But do this, that way you won't need any special equipment and you don't have to wet it. So this has been dried. This is a half a sheet. And the way you do it, you just fold it over. Now this is 300-pound paper, and it has already been reinforced with gesso. So you would think it might be difficult. Watch how easy it is. You literally fold it in half, snaps, fold it this, make a nice deep crease just down the middle like that. This is a half sheet. Now the secret here is to go back the other way. Go back the other way and fold it again. Notice I haven't used any special equipment, you know, any rulers. Now that's one way. Now I might go back one more, just to really make sure I have a good strong crease. Now here's the secret to tearing paper. Remember, I want to maintain that deckled edge. So I'm going to tear it. Now most of us want to tear this way. Don't tear that way, it will tear diagonally. Okay? So you want to tear paper away from itself on the same plane. I always like to tell people, you know, just pretend you're going to make a cone, like a cone like this, and you tear it away from itself. Gently. You can do this. It might be hard at first, but you're going to get this beautiful, beautiful deckled edge, and there's the deckled edge. Great, isn't it? And that way it has that handmade look no matter what size you make it. I can go all the way down here again and do the same thing here. That's a 1/4 sheet. Here's your half sheet. Here's your 1/4 sheet. If you have sensitive hands, use a stick. That's always good. Back of a brush, back of a pen, just like that. And here we go again. We're going to tear it away from itself, maintaining that deckled edge. Real simple, and it has that nice handcraft art look. And that's the short version of this lesson, how to set up your studio. For more information, you can check out my DVDs. I have lots of them for you to take a look at of painting, and or go to my website, robertburridge.com.